Let me try to start again. Welcome to the launch event of issue 97. We'll go online because these are the times right now. And also we have the advantage to be able to talk with people from Amsterdam, from Flow Traders, with Chris and Denis, and I guess other people from Romania as well, not necessarily from Cluj. Still, we are planning to have the August event with the hands-on, with the people at one event, but will not happen, so we'll have to delay it. Anyway, let's see what presentation we'll have today. So we will start with let me start also recording this. We will start with Yulia. Yeah, she's online. She will talk about 5 habits for the efficient man. Then Denis will talk about Java latency. And we'll continue with Andrei Marinoiu, who will talk about what will happen next in a testing era, how much we'll still need testers, and I guess the answer will be true. And then we'll continue with some articles covering the COVID-19 thing. So we'll talk about creating mobile applications, what are the trends, and if you want to create one today, where you should go. And then we'll talk about what will happen with our trainings, and then what will happen with the companies, how we can do everything more efficient with 12 questions from present to the future. And at the end, we'll talk about how we can build an online application using Nuxt that I'll present myself. It's a project that I started recently. And then we'll talk about IT Days, science fiction, what will happen this year. At the end, we'll have a panel. Probably will not be so long, but still we'll have at least 30 minutes to talk with Denis and Catalin about Java performance. Both of them are experts in this area, and I hope we'll have a great discussion. So let's see our first guest, which is Chris, who will basically start opening this event. Let me see if I can bring him on. Okay, so Chris. Chris, you can say something. Okay. Let's see. Okay, Chris, can you hear us? Let me switch the view. Hello. Okay, so if Chris is not there right now, let's try to talk with Yulia. Yulia, can you hear us?
Hey, yes.
Okay, so let me just put on. Okay, and we thank to our partners. And let me put on, just a second, let me disappear. Okay, so if you can start your camera, or you don't have enough connection?
Let me try. If you...
Okay, I can see you. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, if you will not be able to hear me very well, let me know and I will stop the camera.
Okay.
Because I'm currently in the mountains and I don't have a very good signal. We have a Vodafone router, so...
Okay, we can see you, so you can start. You have like 10 minutes at most.
Okay. The article that I wrote, basically, it's a summary of the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a book that's mostly recommended for and recommended by business coaches and in self-development circles. But I think it's useful for anyone no matter the area in which we are working. And the reason why I wrote this summary for today's software magazine is that I hope that at least one other person will read the book and will apply something from it, because I think it's very useful for all of us. I'll start presenting a little bit each of the habits. If you have questions, let me know. The first one, so basically the habits cater for both the way we act and we work, also the way we collaborate with other people. So it's not only related to ourselves, but also to the way we interact with other people. The first habit, it's about being proactive, which means that we should focus on the circle of influence, on the things that we can influence and do something about, and not complain about things that are in our circle of concern. For example, we can complain about, let's say, the security policy that that they are starting to apply in our company. But if we don't have anything to say, if, for example, we are not in that department, or if the company is not necessarily, it's, let's say, more divided into departments, then maybe we don't have anything to say there, and it's not useful for anyone to, at least for us, to complain about it, because we cannot do anything about it. But for example, we as developers, we could focus on, for example, improving the code, and maybe we can see some code that can be refactored, and we can suggest good refactoring approaches. Focusing on our circle of influence, it's difficult because we can do something about it, and we have to take action, comparing to when we are focusing on the circle of concern, so where we cannot do anything, so we can just stay and complain. The second habit is to begin with the end in mind. Basically, when we know where we want to go, it's easier to choose what we want to do and our actions and our everything, basically, to achieve what we want to achieve. If we don't know what we want to achieve, then basically we will be caught in other people's plans, and it will be less likely to spend time on what it's of importance to us. The third habit is put first things first. Here the author recommends to group everything that we do in 4 different categories: important and urgent, important and not urgent, not urgent but important, and not urgent neither important, and drop everything that we do that is in the 4th category, not urgent and not important. Focus on the things that are both important and urgent, and try to plan time for things that are important for us and not necessarily urgent. Here we can put here things like I don't know, attending a course, or reading a book that we would learn something from. We can even put here spending some time with our colleagues, drinking coffee, if it's important for us to connect with them and have a good relationship with them. And also, if we can, try to delegate everything that it's not important but urgent. Not everyone has this luxury of delegating things. First 3 habits had to do with ourselves and the way we act. The 4th and 5th, the next 3 will be about the way we collaborate with other people. The 4th one, it's think win-win. Basically, it's about whenever we do an action and we interact with someone, we should focus on both sides winning. For example, what I experienced in my work as a developer. Whenever someone needs our help, like a junior developer is asking us for help, we can think of our what we can win from that, from helping him, is that maybe we can practice our mentoring skills, maybe we can make a new friend, or maybe if we can help him become more independent, then maybe we can save some of our time later. And on his side, winning means that he's gaining more knowledge in the products, in the technology that we are using. Okay. Fifth habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood. This is about communication, but mostly it's about listening and learning how to listen and how to ask the right questions so that we can understand exactly what the other one is asking us. From my experience, we tend to, when I say we, I'm referring to developers in general, not everyone in the IT world. We have the tendency to think very logically and very mathematically, and not always the other person, the person with whom we are talking, has the same thinking patterns. So it's easy to reach in certain misunderstandings or things that maybe we assume things that the other person never said, and it's basically about trying to understand exactly what the other person wants to say before reacting, before answering. Okay. Sixth habit, it's about synergy, and synergy means that working together can result in better solutions or better results than working independently. It's about the way we collaborate with the others so that the result it's better than the sum of each of us working independently. And it often happens to me that working with someone, with a fellow developer, we reach to a very good solution faster, or a better solution than any of us thought before, because it helps to build together a line of thought when there is also an external someone else there, maybe asking questions from a different angle, with different experience. So basically, when there is a very good example here, when with an apple tree having lots of apples, and two people staying at the bottom of the tree, neither of them reaching the apples from the tree. But if they work together and one of them is holding the other one, then they could reach and pick up lots of apples. So that's the idea behind this habit. And the seventh habit, it's one that I think is the most important one. It's to sharpen the saw, to basically stop and think how you can improve yourself, not only from like technically point of view, not only technically, but also how you can improve your state of mind. Maybe you can relax a little bit, and then you will think more clearly. Maybe if you so basically stop a little bit and think what you can do in order to improve overall and on the long term, not spending time only in things that are bringing money right now or bringing value right now, but also on things that are bringing value on the long term. And it's not only technologically, theoretically, not only like improving your knowledge, but also maybe improving your emotional state of mind, because people, when you are relaxed, it's easier to think and to focus and to work. Also, physically, if you are in a good physical shape, it's also an improvement long term, and it's
sounds good, Julia. Do you want to get some questions or?
Yes, please.
Okay, so everyone, if you have any question, please send them on the chat, or you can also write them in your YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or wherever you are looking it. There is a slight delay, so just for this presentation, for the next one, try to hurry if you have a question. Julia, how much can you think you can improve with all these habits? Can you be like 25% better than before?
I don't know. It depends on from where. I think that I don't know from the book. It's basically each one of us who's trying to apply these habits, or it depends from where we start, on what we apply, how we apply them.
Yes.
But for example, for me personally, what I tried after I read this book, what I tried to do is to apply the third habit, which is dropping some of the tasks that are not important, neither urgent, and consciously spending time on things that are not necessarily urgent but important for me. And this resulted in me staying less time on social media and more time maybe studying or reading something that I am interested in.
I totally agree. I'm doing the same with the emails, for example. So let's say if I forgot to answer to an email, then then that person don't come back, then probably it was not important and we can live without it. But yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you need to set up, even if sometimes you have to be different than the others on this. But definitely we cannot do all of them. Sounds great, Julia. Let me see if we get. So we don't have right now, because usually people at this time are not so happy to ask questions. So I think we are good with this. Thank you. I think your connection was stopped at some point right now. Okay, thank you very much, Julia. And yes.
Thank you for listening to me. I will stay maybe for another presentation, and then I'll have to go. So I'll say bye-bye from now.
Okay, thank you, Julia. Bye.
Bye.
And now let's go to Denis.
Okay, check. Can you hear me?
Yes, Denis, we can hear you, and now you can. So you are live, and your presentation should be here. Okay, so just let me know only when you want to change the slides, and I'll do it. I'll also start the timer for 10 minutes, something like this, 15, you'll see. Okay.
Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. My name is Denis. I am a software development engineer at Flow Traders, and actually my focus is working on the application where throughput and latency really matters a lot. So I have to say sorry up front, I don't have that much experience speaking of online. I prefer offline when you have the audience in front of you, so I might be a little bit boring, but probably my offline sessions boring as well. So Let me start. I would like to start first from my agenda. If you can move to the next slide, it would be nice. So next, okay, perfect. So usually I speak on my presentation. I usually speak a lot about problem statement. This time I will cut a little bit this part because this is kind of boring, I think, and also I have less time than I usually have. After that, I will be speaking a little bit about how you can achieve certain performance optimizing your serialization. I will not speak about like protobuf versus, I don't know, Avro versus JSON. I will be speaking a bit like lower level details of the serialization, and I will give an example how actually very small and tiny thing can change a lot your throughput and your performance. And the last but not least, the next thing in my agenda, I want to cover a very tiny bit of the threading models. So I will explain a little bit of my task, and I will explain why I choose this or that threading model. And the last one is a garbage collector. So the next slide, please. So, so before you actually start any software development, you usually need to understand more or less clearly what exactly you're going to develop, right? So you don't just blindly, you write an application which will process 20 messages a day, and you write hardcore garbage collection free code which will, I don't know, count nanoseconds and the CPU cycles in order to perform very quick. And also you will not use some, JSON serialization in the situation when you need to process multiple millions of events per second, and ideally you want to be able to squeeze in this throughput into one single core of your CPU. That's something you need to understand. So I will just give you a small overview of the application which inspired me to make this talk. So I was building a tool which is supposed to handle, in average, roughly, I think, 400,000 events a second and drop them to the disk. And on the peaks, it should be able to handle, I believe, about like 3-4 million events coming within a single second. And also, the partially problem is coming from that actually I'm not receiving this message on any reliable way. So we have so everyone knows what is UDP. So it's like there is, for instance, if you're not fast enough processing messages, you basically just drop the data on the floor, which is not desired for the application. Also, I try to achieve certain latency. So the moment I receive the message and the moment it actually gets delivered to the downstream system should be as short as possible. And the more important, actually, it should also be predictable. So it's not, so in Java, it's quite common when you have, the garbage collector, I don't know, God knows what, in your machine, there is something else, step in and actually stole your CPU time from your application and does, I don't know, render YouTube or something like that. And another thing I will not cover that much in this presentation, also availability. I was building a system which was designed to be highly available. So there should not be situations when the system completely stop recording the messages, because we don't have a way how we can basically replay this stuff because it's UDP simply. So let's move to the next slide. I will speak a little bit about serialization concerns. And I will start not from comparing protobuf with Avro as you would expect, but actually I will start with very intuitive thing, which quite often not covered by the Java application. So everybody knows what is the byte ordering. You could record, for instance, long with the different ways. You could start from the high byte or low byte, and this is called like byte ordering. So basically everyone knows what is the big endian and the little endian. And there is a very interesting story around that. So historically in the network protocol, we use for some reason big endian. So, but modern CPU architecture and modern memory models, so I'm talking about x86, they actually use little endian, and that's turned out to be an interesting implications. So for instance, when you receive a long from the network, it's just simply 8 bytes. And to convert those 8 bytes to a long, you have to reorder those bytes. And it's not that heavy, it's multiple CPU cycles. I don't probably 10 or whatever, probably less, probably it can be done on a modern CPU in 2 or 3. But actually, why wouldn't you just take those 8 bytes and cast them to the long? It's in C++ world it's called reinterpreted cast, I think. So you just basically can take a piece of memory and treat it as a, I don't know, data type. And actually in Java, we don't usually do it every day, but actually there is a way how you could do it even in the Java. So for instance, if you will design a new protocol which will be used on the critical path of your message distribution, I would strongly advise you to consider, instead of using native network protocol, actually just use little endian byte ordering, and you can actually, using unsafe or direct byte buffers, you can cast bytes to the longs, integer, and whatsoever. And if your messages, for instance, in our cases, market data has a lot of numbers in it, it saves, for instance, when it did this change, I was comparing, it's actually reduced CPU consumption. So the bottleneck was actually translating the bytes to long. And when I fix it, it actually cost almost nothing. So if you can go to the next slide, I would appreciate that. Another thing, a video? Okay, perfect. Another thing, what is important for Java developers and actually how you manage your memory. We all know that we have a garbage collector, and this garbage collector creates some uncertainty in our latency. So at any moment of time, you can be hit by this. And there is a question how you want to manage your memory. Is it off heap or is it in a heap? Even if you allocate a big array in a heap, it will still be processed by the garbage collector, especially if it's big array. But for instance, if you create off heap, the disadvantage of that, you have to take care of the allocation, deallocation yourself. That's a little bit of the overhead, which as a Java developer, we don't usually do. But actually, if you will be able to use and get used to using off heap, you can squeeze in a little bit more performance. So as I said before, for instance, if you use native byte ordering, and if you use off heap byte buffer, using unsafe or direct byte buffer, you can actually achieve fairly nice performance boost. So if you could move me to the next slide, I could explain myself a little bit more. So just recently, I was doing, not recently actually, more than a year ago, I was doing some performance benchmarks, and I was comparing direct byte buffer versus heap byte buffer. I took Java 8. As far as I know, in Java 11, this is actually already solved, and the difference will not be that significant. But what I configured, the benchmark in GMH, Java harness. So this is performance thingy developed by the GDK developers. So in the GMH, I set up the following test. I was deserializing the messages which contains 8 longs. And of course, as every test, I have my baseline, basically a method which allows you to understand how fast my CPU is. So basically, I was able to do roughly 62 million operation per second, doing nothing, just basically spinning around. And then I was comparing the direct access to the memory and the heap access to the memory, and the different ways of constructing the long, and I found out that actually direct access and reading long using unsafe operations gives you almost twice improvement on the throughput, which is, I would say, quite significant improvement. And also if you look at the percentiles, it also looks better. So basically 99% of the operations was executed below that 66 nanosecond per operations. I would say this is pretty decent results. Going forward, I wanted to speak, I have really few minutes left, so I cannot speak a lot about trading model. Can you turn to the next slide? But I will try to explain from the high level what options you have. So fairly standard, in Java, we actually use blocking queues or executor framework. And the biggest advantage of that approach, that everybody knows how to do that, it's very simple, and you could achieve fairly high throughput. Basically, you have create multiple queues, you could create multiple workers, and you could just basically stream those events to the queue and have them processed by different threads. But it has disadvantages. They all come from the approach, how it's done. So basically, there is a contention. So you have to manage all your thread. There is also a context switches. Basically, your CPU, when you do your job, your CPU has to jump between different tasks, and this is quite expensive operation. And also, as far as you're using queues, you have to create object, and create an object kind of forces garbage collector to do its job. And yeah, this is what we wanted to avoid. So if we go to the next slide, there is another approach. I call it myself single thread, and we also use a CPU affinity. So we basically bind our working thread to the one particular CPU, and this working thread do all job. It actually reads the socket, it transforms the messages, and it actually stores these messages on the disk. So it's actually my favorite approach. Honestly, I went through the different stages. Initially, I thinking I'm good at concurrency. Now I'm thinking about again that I'm not that good, and actually I'm bad. So that's why I prefer to have a single-threaded application doing all job. And for this particular task I was solving, I think it was a fairly nice approach. So what I achieved changing threading model. First of all, I don't have any queues. So, and also, as I mentioned, I did use a CPU affinity. So I basically bound my worker to one certain CPU, and I was CPU core. And I was checking explicitly that this CPU core was using the PCI Express line of the CPU core was actually connected to my network card, and they actually connected to my NVMe disk, which was really high performance disk. And what I did, I just was calling the timer, do some message transformation, and store them on the disk. So advantages, no context switching, no contention, and actually latency without significant latency drops quite significantly. And with a single thread approach, when you need to do more heavy job, you could use a specific queues which has more performance than a blocking queue. For instance, single producer, single consumer queues or whatsoever. The disadvantage is, of course, limited throughput. You cannot squeeze more than your CPU can process, and the scalability part. So if you have, I don't know, 32 cores, that means you can run only 31 worker. And also, this approach doesn't work that well with the modern CPUs in terms of hyper-threading. For when we really need to squeeze in every single nanosecond, we disable hyper-threading to not allow the CPU do pipeline manipulations. So going forward to the next slide, I came to the weighted approach in the end. Can you, it's delayed a little bit. Next slide. So I just did multiple threads. I put specific queues, garbage collector back. Okay. Specific queues. So it was garbage collector free queues, which was designed to be used like single producer, single consumer threads. So what I got from that, it says on my slides that this is predictable latency, and this is true. On the critical path of the application, no matter how many messages I handle, I didn't allocate a single object. So the only thing which was allocating the object was a monitoring application, which was every 10 seconds calling my application to check the stats. This was the garbage source, but I decided it's not that significant to fix it as well. And it's friendly to CPU. Someone can argue with that because your CPU is spinning on 100%. But the truth is actually our CPU, if you put a certain hints, it actually can understand that you just basically spinning the CPU, and it could reduce the power on this core to kind of manage power better and give some resources to another core. Because there is like a thermal budget in our CPUs, and if we will start spinning all cores, it will start throttle. Basically, it will reduce the frequency. So for instance, even though some hardcore ultra low latency developers on C++, they sometimes even use your whole CPU, like modern Xeon with God knows how many cores, and they use just only one core because the thermal budget. So you can spin on the maximum frequency on the one core, but you cannot spin on all cores because then you cannot manage the heat. Yeah, I use shared memory as a buffer. This has its pluses and its minuses. That means that to use a shared memory, you have to serialize the serialize. But with the approach I mentioned before, it's almost for free. Disadvantage, it's a really complicated code, and actually it requires a lot of resources to work. That's basically, I think we can skip the garbage collector part. I mentioned, so on the next slide, if you can open that, I mentioned that's important, but it's probably too much. And you could use different fancy tooling like GFR, and other stuff to understand what is your garbage collector. But main things, try to not allocate objects on a hot path. I think that's what I wanted to say. It was a little bit too fast and intense, but
the subject was really interesting, at least for me, as you know, some Java developer. So you are really managing all the hardware details there to get the maximum as you get from a processor. It's kind of crazy. Can't you do in parallel? Like, can you put more machines and don't pay too much attention? So the idea is to process as much as, I mean, can't you scale horizontally? I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know, the problem is, as I mentioned before, the traffic comes via UDP, which is by design unreliable. If, for instance, if you cannot read from your socket fast enough, you will drop a message. And basically, usually all this infrastructure, we scale horizontally. We cannot record everything on one single machine. We have multiple machines, a lot of machines actually to record that. But the thing is, during the spikes, for instance, our beloved Trump published a Twitter, the market started moving crazy. And at this moment of time, your load on the system like grows 10 times. Or for instance, when Corona started in a different announcement, the amount of data in average increased 4 times a day. So basically we start receiving 4 times more messages and the spikes became insane. And actually doing that engineering effort to build this application, this component didn't experience any issues at all. It was just basically recording all the data we need, and our researchers, data scientists, they was really happy to get every single tick and beat happening during that crazy times.
Wow, that's great. And so at the end, I mean, following your at the end of the presentation, so you are going with one single thread at the end, with one core that is using all the energy from the processor, or?
We didn't go that way.
Okay.
So because we started multiple those workers, and we actually we disabled hyperthreading because hyperthreading impacts that a lot. In CPU, there is a lot of optimizations called, for instance, prefetcher. So for instance, when you read a memory in a certain pattern, so when you write this application, to go to the L3 memory is already slow. So you want to be on L2 or better L1, so hit your cache. And honestly, on the CPU, the memory operation is the slowest operation. And basically, in CPU, there are certain optimizations. They can predict by your read pattern which memory address you might need next. And basically, if you write the application in a certain way, your CPU is really good at it. And basically, you get your memory prefetched very fast as well. So basically, your hit ratio, how often you hit your L1 cache on the core, becomes fairly kind of nice. I mean, you enjoy that, you see these numbers, that there's no cache misses, because to go to RAM, like it's like considered super slow. This application consumes roughly 200 megabytes of RAM.
Wow. Well, will be interesting if you can. Will be interesting an article to create some, really simple things that can show to the people how important is all this processing and how where we are sending the data.
I could make a small write-up. I could make a small write-up in these details, like a little bit like code examples and the implications. Yeah, I can try to make it.
Yeah, that will be great. I mean, you can publish an article and see you again here at the event, or maybe at IT Days. Now that everything is online, it's simpler. Okay, Denis, thank you very much. It was a really good presentation. Thank you. And I hope I see you next time.
For sure. Thank you for listening to me. This is the second time I'm giving that, and I hope my next presentation, I actually want to focus more on the serialization problem. There's a lot of things to speak about, and I will have something prepared.
Sounds great. Thank you. And now let's move to Andrei. Okay, so we'll move now to Andrei. Hi, Andrei.
Hello. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you. Do you want to speak in Romanian or in English? It's in English.
No, it's okay.
It's
in English.
okay.
It's quite fine. For everybody speaking in English.
Okay, let
the way
me.
we can go forward.
Okay, let me refresh. So if you have the presentation started, just a second to refresh it and see if it's loaded.
Yes,
If not, we can go with the backup plan.
please.
Okay. Just a second, so you can see it here too. Okay, I hope will show up.
It seems like we have a bit of a lag on the other channel, so I'm
Yeah,
not quite sure
yes,
if you
yes.
managed to.
No, that's usually.
the-
So for all online events, you should speak with me only in this window from stream, and the YouTube and Facebook are for the audience, which usually it's a little bit delay.
Yeah, okay.
So let me try to
Okay.
refresh the page. Just a second to refresh it.
Please.
Okay, so for
So, until then, maybe I can start with a short introduction.
yes, please.
So, hello everybody. My name is Ante Marinoiu. I currently am a test consultant for Accesa, and today I would like to talk a bit about the future of the testing. So, yeah, until Ovidiu gets ready with the actual presentation, the PowerPoint, I would like to go with you through today's agenda. So, in order to see how this testing future will develop, we will need to go a bit into the history of the testing to see how the testing developed through the decades, and to see what progress was done, and then we should go to see the trends nowadays. What are the trends that are nowadays in testing, and then we can go to my assumptions, or how do I see the future of the testing, yeah, having in mind both the history of the testing and the present trends.
Andre,
So
it's not started.
I'm not
so
quite sure if you managed to put my presentation, because I cannot.
It's not started. So let me. If
Sorry?
you start, it's not started remotely from their service. I'm sorry. So I'll just. I'm running the backup presentation. You will tell me when to change the slide if it's fine. Okay.
It's perfect. You can go direct.
Okay, let me disappear. Okay, so you can start. Should I change the slide?
So I'm not quite sure with what slide are you at, because I
you
cannot
can
see the
me,
presentation, but I assume that you are.
If you can see me, you'll see the screen there behind me. If you click on me.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you can move a bit forward to the.
I'm on the second slide.
Yeah, to the history of testing, to the third slide.
Okay. So past, present, future,
Yeah.
and
you can even move to the fourth one, because yeah, it's.
Okay. So starting an era.
It's okay. So actually So actually, the first era in the history of testing was the start era, where testing wasn't defined yet. So there weren't yet testers. So the developers were doing actually diagnosing and debugging. So yeah, as you could imagine, the difficulty was lying in detecting it was not in detecting the bugs, but in making the root cause analysis and so on. So you can move these slides to get to the other era. So the next era is the functional era, where actually that's where the functional testing comes from. So the testing was defined, and the purpose of the testing was to show that the programs or the applications were working as expected, or yeah, as they were designed. Now you can still hear me, right? Okay, so moving forward, then we have the schedule era, where yeah, only a decade aside, we can see that the purpose of testing it's becoming opposite to the functional era. We have the destruction era, where the testing purpose is to find errors, and is the whole mindset has shifted, and now the testers are looking for all the defects that they can find. Now this was really not the good era. So the one that's coming, it's the cost era, where yeah, people have seen that in the destruction era there was a lot of costs for the applications to reach the market, and then they needed to evaluate the these techniques, and to choose a set of techniques that can help ensure the development, and to have the products in the market with a good quality, and not to spend too many times on the testing part. Now the last decade or era is the one in which we are right now. It's called the quality era, where yeah, it's about the prevention. It's about all the team, all the development team, all the Scrum team working together to assure the quality of the end product. As this quote here says it all. It's the bitterness of poor quality remains long after the sweetness of low price is forgotten. So yeah, that's theoretically the era we're in now. So yeah, everybody should work together to make sure that the quality of the deliverables are met, and yeah, the end customers are happy, and yeah, they can benefit from our work. Now let's leave this history apart for now, and go to the growing trends nowadays. You can directly go to slide number 10, and you can put all the information in it, and I will try to present. So one of the today's trends is about automation. Okay, we're now increasing our automation testers, because yeah, we are in need of speed. We are in need of faster deployments. Yeah, we will live in a CI/CD pipeline where we will have probably deployments not at not on a daily basis, but even at, I don't know, each hour or each couple of hours. So we need to be fast. We need to increase the amount of automation. We need to increase tools. We need to use codeless test automation tools. So this way we can speed up the whole process. Also, testers probably will blend with DevOps, becoming sort of, I don't know, a hybrid persons or I don't know, jobs. I don't know how to call them. So that's the first thing. Then another thing is about machine learning. So it's clear that automation will not be enough to be able to keep up the speed. So we will need a lot of predictive things, like predictive analytics. We will need to optimize our test suits to see the analytics, the traceability, and some analysis at the defect level. So this machine learning will be, I mean, it's the perfect tool to do so. Okay, then yeah, we can go to the other trend which I've pointed out, which is the one of the big data. So big data is already been here. So as the globe population is growing pretty fast, I would say. We have a lot of customers, and this amount of customers will get bigger and bigger. So there'll be some real-time scalability challenges. So we will need to see how we can manage this consumer partitioning, social indexing, and data mutation. So the big data will be a tool that probably testers will use more and more on a daily basis. Good. So this was about volume, and the last but not least one is about the Internet of Things. So as you already can see, most of the appliances are interconnected between them in smart homes and so on. But that's just the beginning of the Internet of Things. Now with the 5G technology, maybe we will see the next step for example, for the self-driving cars and so on. So we can move to the next level. So yeah, we will have to test interesting features like, I don't know, the third-party data sharing between systems and so on, the security, the integration management, the compliance requirements, and the access management. It will be really, really interesting to see how this will evolve over time. So these are only the trends that I see nowadays. And now I would like to go through the actual topic of today, which is how the future will look like. So for this video, I would like for you to go to slide number 15 and put all the information over there. So
yeah, Turing test, right?
Before even going, sorry.
Turing test.
Before even
slide.
going to the actual, yes. So before even going to see how the future will look like, I would want to go again a bit in the past and see that in the 50s, this Alan Turing has developed the Turing test, which is the test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior. So even before testing was in place, let's say so remember that in the 50s we only had debugging. So even before the testing is defined, we have this Turing test developed by Alan Turing, which is an important concept in artificial intelligence. So that's what we will talking about today. It's the artificial intelligence, and you can go to the slide 16. We will talk about the artificial intelligence. So we have a weak AI, which is already here. We will have strong AI, which will come in, researchers say, 50 years from now on. And so if you're under 35, it's a big chance that you will see strong AI in action. Then we will have super AI and emotional AI. Now let's see how this AI will impact the testing part. So for the weak AI in the slide 17, I won't go into much details because that's already here. So the weak AI, or the artificial narrow intelligence, is here. So you have a phone, you have Siri, you have an email, you have the spam folder. So there's an algorithm which puts the emails which he considers as a spam, he directs them into the spam folder. And yeah, another example is for I don't know, Amazon suggestions, and the list can continue. I won't enter here much details, but I would propose you to go to slide number 18, where we talk about the strong AI, or artificial general intelligence. Now, that means that the AI will go to a trial and error process, and it would be able to learn and update itself without any instructions. Now, this is really interesting. That process is called recursive self-improvement. So basically a strong AI, it will be reached when the AI intelligence will meet our intelligence. AI will be able to decode, I don't know, 3D images to make simple everyday tasks like recognize granny, like get the glass of milk and so on. So not only that he will be able to do stuff on its own, but if he will encounter areas where he's not aware of or he doesn't have knowledge about, he will be able to update itself. So yeah, now the questions here that arise are: will we still need to test the work done by, for example, an AI developer, or will we still need to have an AI tester which will need to test the AI developer's work? Now, how can we make sure that the tests executed by an AI tester are okay? How can we establish a process of monitoring and making sure he won't make the same mistakes or even other mistakes than the AI developer? So basically, the last question here would be, how can we trust the AI's capability of understanding the process as we do as individuals? So that's the last question of this slide. And I would like to go to the next one, which is about the super AI.
One question. So do you have
Yes,
an
please.
answer, or we're looking forward for an answer in the future?
No, these are just open answers because nobody knows the answers.
Okay.
But these are something to think about and to see how what's your personal, I don't know, opinion about this, because there's no correct answer or wrong answer. It's just the predictability or assumptions, or I don't know, call it however.
Okay.
What we are doing here.
I'll let you
the
continue.
next decade. Okay, the next AI which will come, it's the super AI, where it will come exponentially faster than the strong AI. And yeah, as you can see there in the pictures, some of the people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Stephen Hawking says that this will also mean the end of human civilization. Now that's because the AI's intelligence will become greater and faster than humanity's, and humans won't be able to understand the technical processes developed by the super AI. So we won't be able to understand them, and furthermore, they will be able to predict human behavior even better than us. So the question which arises here also is, how much will we trust them in doing so? So on the other part, other researchers and Mark Zuckerberg and others say that the super AI will make the world better, and the humanity will enter into a new decade, which is called abundancy, where everything prices will drop. Humans won't need to worry about jobs or anything else, because everything will be cheap, affordable, and it will be abundant. Okay. So the question which arises here is, how can we make sure that this AI won't try to make us extinct? And if we go a bit further, it's more important, how can we make them relate to our core values? Because we as humanity cannot get to the same path if we talk about, I don't know, war, abortion, and so on. So we need to make a super AI understand which are our core values, which is what is good and what is bad. So how will it test that an AI understands what's good, what's bad? And the most important question is, when should we start thinking or developing such human core values? And the next question is, when is the right time to merge this kind of code into a super AI? Because it might be a bit late to do it when the super AI is developed. Maybe we should do it a bit earlier, when the strong AI is developed, or even earlier, starting from now. So the last question here is, how can we make sure that the super AI will still work in our benefit and will not try to take over humanity and extinct us as a species? how we will test this super AI to make sure that it will work in our favor.
Well, can I?
So moving.
Can I interrupt you a second? Because it is really interesting. So what about, as a software developers and testers, we are used to create interfaces, right? So what about we'll create an interface which will be an AI that will talk with another AI, and that's it.
Yes.
But yeah, we'll see.
So I'm not getting to the. I didn't understand the question.
No,
so,
what was your overall question? How we'll test those AIs? And a possible answer will be just to create an interface, which will be another AI that will talk with that AI. So things might get involved. You might get, different identities separated that, you can try to see what's happened when they interact.
It's a good question, but how do we make sure that this tester AI, or call it however, it will test based on our core values or based on the needs that we have? Because again, this AI will be able to update itself on its own, so he could be able to learn for the
right, but
AI developer.
You can create a drop-down version, let's say, right? I mean, you don't enable all the stuff, just something that you can control and you can use it for testing. And yeah, I mean, tester can create.
Yes, I know, but
it might go in that directions.
Yeah, it's like taking down the internet with a slingshot. It's pretty hard.
Okay, so I'll let you continue.
It's pretty hard to, after we develop this. Yeah, thank you. So we can have this. I only have a last slide, so we can afterwards deep dive into the subject. So the last part is about the emotional AI. So this AI is about recognizing, interpreting, processing, and simulating human experience of feeling or emotion, which is also called affective computing. So this kind of AI can come whenever. It can come even now after the weak AI. It can come after strong AI. It can come after super AI. It has nothing to do with those. So this is basically the AI will have empathy. It will be able to come to you, and if you're sad, to cheer you up. Now, how do you test an emotion? How do you test a feeling? How do you test if a robot feels something? How do you measure if a robot is empathic? I mean, just think about people who are smiling, on the outside, but in the inside, they are like a volcano. They are angry, but they are smiling wave. Now, how will an AI be able to interpret and recognize the feelings or the emotions which are running inside us? Now, these are some open questions which I'm putting, and I'm letting you answer yourselves. And moving a bit on, you can go to the Q&A slide, and before taking the questions, I would like to drop some conclusions here. So it's about how this AI will shift not only testing, but eventually the entire world. I would say that this future of the testing, which my assumption is that it will be hand in hand with the AI, will be like pit stops in Formula 1. So who runs the fastest and the most qualitative testing and will reach the market first will have the most revenue. So it's about, I don't know, the fastest as you can get without losing the quality, and with the help of this AI. So the question is, will the testing die in the future? It might die by its name, because probably, or maybe it won't be called anymore testing, data analyst and so on, but the mindset will remain. And yeah, it will go through a, I don't know, let's say modernization process, or yeah, it will need to change somehow, because we're still in that starting decades. We're still doing functional testing and so on. We still have test cases. We still do a lot of things that can improve. And now I will finish this with another question, of course. Now, how are you preparing for the future? Not only for the future of testing, but for the AI which is coming. And that was my presentation. And I would be really happy to have a discussion based on this presentation. I will now shut up.
Okay. No, don't. That's fine. Let's see if you have any question. Please send them on the chat or on Twitter, as it mentioned in the screen.
The time is really short, so
yes. So
I'm sorry if I was fast or.
Okay, that's fine. The only thing is, everything is bring me to that movie WALL-E, and everything you said, and where people got really fat, and they just do nothing, and they are searching basically for a purpose, right? And the machine gives them the purpose, and might be the case, might not be the case, but we as humans probably, will have always a purpose. Even if the purpose will be to fight each other, but that's a purpose. And I don't think machine will overcome everything and will manipulate everything.
Yeah, I don't have yet an opinion. It's just the starting of my research, but yeah, I've just stated what some of the researchers and some of well-known people have said. So yeah, it's let's say buzzword for now, and yeah, we're only at the beginning of the AI.
Yeah, it's easy.
So we need to deep dive into it to see what's this really about.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic, and yeah, I'm curious if we'll still deep dive into this topic. What we'll get in 2 months for now, for example, it will be. I'll be curious to see.
This is a topic which I would love to present it live, because now it's really annoying being in front of a computer and talking to myself. But yeah,
agree. Agree. So yeah, we will see. Yeah, that's the situation. On the other hand, there are opportunities because we are online, but on the other hand, agree with you, and you don't want to, you don't want to get sick because you went to an event. So yeah, it's like this. Okay, Andre.
Safety first.
I think the topic is great and will make the people think about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you for attending, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed my presentation. So
yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a nice evening. Bye.
You too. Bye. And okay, so now let's go with Alin Turcu. So the next presentation will be with Alin. Salut, Alin. Vreți să vorbim în engleză sau în română?
English is good.
Okay, so we'll continue in English. Let me put you on screen. I think I have your presentation, right?
Yes, you should.
Okay, just a second. Okay. So we have it. Alin, you have 10 minutes, if it's fine.
Yeah, sure. I can make it fit. So hi, my name is Alin. I'm the mobile community manager at Cognizant Softvision. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends in the mobile industry affected by this COVID situation and what will happen after it. So you can go to the next slide.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So in a very short period, the world went from being mobile to being stationary, right? The majority of us being stuck at home. So if you add this to the upcoming economic crisis, you get a scenario where you might believe that the mobile app development ecosystem will be affected this year or the next. And also in the last few years, the world of the apps exploded to the upside. So one question is, will this trend halt or continue? So although COVID-19 is having an impact on the App Store revenue, growth, I think, remains strong. And the forecasts are that in 2024, the revenues from App Stores will double than the one we had in 2019. Another interesting thing is that the app downloads forecast during this COVID situation are 9% higher than the forecasts done before this COVID thing happened. So why is that? Well, despite a decrease in usage for travel and hospitality apps like Booking.com, according to a study, people spend 20% more time using apps in this first quarter of 2020, compared to 2019. So we have an increase of usage in this quarter. During this time, consumers also spend over 23 billion in app stores, the largest spend amount per quarter till date. So the clear winners, who are the clear winners in this situation? Where are apps in the field of remote work, communication, education, social media? We spend a lot of time on social media now that we're home, health, and also online shopping. And some of these trends are continuation of trends settled before COVID-19, but we have a new confirmed trends, and new trends will emerge from the lessons learned from this period. You can also see in the screen the types of apps that exploded in this station, and the apps that are no longer used. So it has been a switch, not a downscale. So if you go to the next one, I'll briefly talk a little bit about some emerging trends. Some, as I said, are continuation. So chatbots. Nowadays, service providers had to quickly adapt to the lockdown situation and the new ways of interacting with their customers. So they all turned to digital, of course. And mobile apps with services such as banking, online shopping, food delivery, and healthcare are working in incorporating chatbots as part of their apps to easier interact with the customer remotely. And according to a recent survey, more than 63% of US online customers were interested in interacting with chatbots in 2020. And Gartner did a research that indicated that chatbots will save up to 8 billion for US companies in 2020. So instead of having the teams that do support at the phone. Healthcare apps also surged during this period. So this trend, I think, is too strong to cool off. We will get used to online consultation. We'll use them more than ever. And besides these online consultations, we also see studies and researches that we can use the phone and the sensors in our phone to detect diseases. There is a study that uses accelerometer data from cell phones and smartwatches, and which measure how your device moves through space, and it can estimate the severity of Parkinson's disease, helping patients understand their disease progression. So this I think will continue as the phones have more and more sensors. AR, with this. Again, with the lockdown situation, in gaming, AR had a huge boost. And also now with the power of extremely fast internet due to 5G, the loading time and image quality will highly improve this user experience in the AR apps. Beacons now are used to track people such as patients or doctors in hospital during emergencies and provide reliable indoor turn-by-turn navigation. We are actually seeing these types of apps now being developed even in our company, where with beacons you can detect agglomerations. You can see with your app where the let's say the hand washer is, where you can disinfect your hands, and so on. And if you integrate this with thermal cameras, for example, you get a safety environment in a closed space to avoid too much agglomeration. IoT also is seen as I'm talking about this. IoT is also seen as the next big thing. I think experts started calling it Industrial Revolution 4.0. Also, a report by Gartner says that there are 14 billion connected things in use in 2019, and there's an anticipation that there will be 25 billion connected things by 2021. Beacons being one of them. Okay, and lastly, education. I think online education and online study are here to stay. We will get used to them. We will take out the tests on tablets and phones, and so on. So this was not a new trend. It was also an established trend. ACT tests, for example, in US are now taken in tablets. Before that, they were pen and paper. But now, due to the lockdown, more and more apps in this area will appear. And yeah, you can go to the next one. I think, in conclusion, the mobile apps have grown to an extent where every digital use case has a place for them. The rate at which mobile applications are being used and adopted has given birth to a time where there is not even a single business domain that wouldn't have thought about investing in a mobile app. So that's why I think it will continue growing. And in my opinion, mobile apps remain a major economic driver and a healthy environment for both developers, investors, enterprises through 2020 and beyond. So yeah, that was it for me. So
okay, it was really interesting presentation. I'm curious, which of these domains do you think will be, get most of the attention next? Will it be the healthcare? Will it be, AI? What do you think?
I don't know. I think the healthcare for sure, because healthcare can also use AI. So these are blended. They're not separate fields. Chatbots, again, will be used in healthcare and are used in healthcare. I think recently Apple developed a chatbot that can, if you answer the questions provided by the chatbot, it can tell you to go to the hospital to test yourself, or if you're fine, or you should quarantine yourself, and so on. So all these AI chatbots will be blended in healthcare, in education also, and so on. So I think there's no clear thing, because they can interact with each other. As I said, beacons will interact in hospitals and also large spaces. IoT, again, connected devices can be used in various scenarios, even healthcare.
Makes sense. What about the VR? I mean, do you think VR got the expected adoption, or we are still in the early phase here? If you're talking about the glasses, right?
Yes, the glasses. Yeah. I think we are still in the stages of early adopting, because AR will be extremely useful once we can produce cheaper devices that can be accessible for everyone. We'll have strong internet connection because it uses a lot of bandwidth, and also we'll have a more meaningful purpose, like education, for example. You can teach somebody to replace a car part, right? Using AR, it will showcase where you have to unscrew the screw and so on.
Right.
So this can be instructions right in your face.
Yeah, I agree, because as it is right now, the VR, it's basically block the world outside you. So probably a solution like Google, Microsoft HoloLens or something like this, but more performant, will probably win the market. But otherwise, I think are most usefully for gaming and stuff like this.
Yes, that's why AR is more. The virtual VR is more used, because the gaming pushed it a lot.
Right.
The gaming pushed the industry a lot and invested a lot of money into this. So I think nowadays the VR devices are more performant than the AR ones.
Yeah,
but I think it will change.
And some,
This is also the first year. That's another interesting. I think this will be the first year where the mobile revenue from apps that are not games surpasses the revenue from those that are games. Until now, the gaming was leading the revenue in the apps.
That's interesting.
So
Yeah,
we will see a shift there.
That's a good info. Okay. Okay, good. Thanks, Alin. I think we are fine. Thank you. Was a really good presentation. Thank you. And bye.
Thank you.
Okay, and now let's see if we get Oana. And okay, so the next presentation will be from Oana. Hi, Oana. Vorbim în română sau în engleză?
Yes.
Oare n-ai niște căști? Sau oprește și ce-ți mai sună pe acolo prin casă?
Stai să dau eu numai. Just a second.
Acum auzim bine.
Presentation together.
Okay.
So I think we'll use my microphone, and in order to not be confused, just toggle your screen, and that way you can see both of us. You can see both of us, not only the speaker, because we're actually going to use the same microphone. We're in the same room, so we're going to use the microphone on my computer. But if you don't have the toggle view, you'll actually see just the person speaking, like right now. But if Oana speaks,
you will see Nora nodding her head.
I see. So let me see if I can change just a second to change to another view. No, let me see if I can.
So actually on the app you have on your right the toggle view.
Okay, so I have a toggle view. Did you see this?
Next to the small icon for information.
It's 4 squares squared.
Okay, so if I'm
4 squares.
Okay, so I see one. Just so it's not from the menu. It's from the.
No, if you have the full screen on, or even if you don't have the full screen on, you're on the same line with the camera, but you move right, and you have 4 little squares in a bigger square, and actually that's the toggle screen where you can see people who are in the meeting. You can see all of them on your screen.
Okay. So you want this? Okay, I got you. So
I mean, it's easier,
Yeah, it's easier.
Okay, but what can I? Yeah, but
what?
Do you want to talk in the same time?
No, we're going to talk one at a time. So I'm
okay.
Going
So let's go like this. So just talk one at a time, and I can display on them, and that should be fine.
Okay.
Okay. It's one time, but kind of at the same time. It will be interesting. Okay. So hi everyone. It's nice to be here. We really enjoyed your presentations. I can't say we understood everything because it's mostly hard skills. Our main expertise is in soft skills. We're Oana and Nora, language and soft skills trainers at Flow. And to give you just a little bit of information about our backgrounds, Nora here is a Sorbonne graduate in Paris, and she's an international conference interpreter too. She's been a language and soft skills trainer for 5 years now in the Cluj business environment.
And Oana is a corporations graduate, and she's been a language and soft skills trainer for 3 years now. And if we get a little bit more into the specifics of our method, you should know that we're actually partners in crime, in the sense that we teach together. So whenever we have a training course, we're together there. This is why we're also presenting. I mean, we're also pitching this together.
Yes, it's part of our method. We like it. It adds a lot of dynamics, and we really enjoy it. Like some of the presenters said, it's hard to be online and look at the screen and not have an audience. but this makes it a lot more fun and dynamic. Anyway, before we go into more details about our program, we'd like to refer to some factors that we've used or that have influenced our current direction in the present context.
So as most of you have already mentioned, actually, I think some of you, I can't remember who, I think Alin mentioned the fact that remote work remote work is a phenomenon that has been a part of our daily reality for most of us workers here in Cluj, especially in the IT sector. And this phenomenon is spreading even more now in the context of the COVID-19 pandemic. But don't take our word for it. There are actually experts who say this. For example, according to an article in Forbes, COVID-19 has migrated the entire workforce and student population online, and economic restrictions have impacted career paths in all industries. So this is one of the premises. And another article in The Economist mentions the great thrill that actually businesses experience at the perspective of accessing the global workforce in the new remote work-based economy.
Yeah, and not only that, but uncertainty is an issue. According to a specialized L&D website, businesses have been in a state of uncertainty during the pandemic, which is inherent, and have needed to regroup and to reassess their priorities, including the training, what training they need to roll out to their workforce. So the pandemic has forced many organizations to rethink how they spend their time, their budget. In a survey we found, 58% of the respondents reported that their training budget has been affected. And 61% of those companies said that they are spending actually more than they did before the pandemic. This is, of course, an opportunity for trainers, provided that they offer companies what they're looking for. But what we were interested in is asking you actually how it is in your companies. We were really interested in finding out if you had fewer training programs during the pandemic, the percentage of online training programs offered by your companies, if you attended soft skills programs in these last few months, have they been a priority, more than before, less than before? We thought of posting these questions on the chat, in the chat box, so that you can answer them whenever you have the time in the next 7 minutes, if you can. We'll go on to
we'll comment on them. Just know that we've asked these questions around, and the global the general tendencies have been for fewer trainings due to cut in costs, and to most of the almost 100% of the trainings taking place online. And this, for such as ourselves, has represented a big shift, because most of our programs were taking place face-to-face before the pandemic. And as Denis said, he prefers the offline because he finds the online boring. So this was the perfect opportunity for us to reflect on current business practices and processes, and reassess whether they make and whether our programs make sense for the future of work and for the future of learning, especially for the future of learning. So we've taken that into account, and we've decided that our best option is to make the shift towards the online. Of course, this is a huge task, but we consider that there are a lot of benefits there. Now, if we move on to our method.
One common, Nora. So one advantage if you move online is that you can record their solo courses, and you can, play them again, and just give them a feeling of what you are doing before they actually join in. So that might be helpful.
It's true. It's just that it somehow it affects the dynamics that you usually have in a face-to-face meeting. I mean, I'm sure you of all people understand this. I mean, because you had to shift all your meetings online, and it's a big change if you ask me.
Especially skills trainings, which are a lot about intuition, about the relationship you build with people, and it's a little bit more challenging when you have a screen between the two of you.
And this brings us to our programs, because our programs consist of a soft skills part and a language skills part. And the programs are customized for the business work environment. We've been working with different industries here in Cluj-Napoca, and what I can say is that we offer a combination of hard skills, for example, grammar pills, relevant contextualized vocabulary for English or French enhancement, and on the other part we have the soft skills part, which consists of hands-on, effective, and useful, hopefully, tips and practice exercises. And this is really, really difficult. I mean, it's challenging. It's not difficult, but it's challenging to move all this online.
And how do your audience receive this? They are open to it, or how do you feel it?
That's an interesting question, because we had both. So, for example, there was a client who was really reluctant to this shift, although they were in the IT sector. But the participants to our classes, so before the pandemic broke out, we had 70% of our classes at their offices, so in a face-to-face environment, and they really loved it, and they loved the dynamics, and they really enjoyed the soft skills exercises. Once we moved our classes in the online, it was a little bit more difficult at the beginning, especially soft skills wise, as Oana said, because it's harder to actually communicate and to actually have aha moments online. You have to wait your turn when you want to speak. When you do a debate, for example, it's a little bit more difficult. Sometimes there are connection issues that you need to overcome. So, but we also had clients, on the other hand, who have started classes with us, but online from the beginning, and they are very pleased and they are thrilled with our classes, and especially with the soft skills exercises.
Yeah, we seem to be able to recreate the dynamics if the module, if the course starts online from the beginning. So the shift, if the shift was done in the middle of the module of the course, then it was a little bit more difficult to adapt. But now it's getting more efficient, and the mix that we have is not an accident. Even according to a LinkedIn survey, soft skills are vital to the future of work. And in times like the ones we're experiencing right now, they're proven really imperative. And we have to think about the fact that cross-cultural communication and international teams are going to be the norm, and in most industries. So that means that soft skills training may actually gain an additional cultural and language component. That's our prediction, at least.
Yeah,
and besides the soft skills and language skills, we have come up with something else, with a toolbox. We call them communication power skills. And these are like vital skills even for meetings such as this one. So communication power skills are clarity, concision, and structure. And we believe, or we predict, that HR and training departments could take on this role, but another option would be for them to outsource it to expert training companies such as ours, such as Flow, who have them embedded actually in their training method. But don't take our word for it. We would like to give an example of what we mean. So I don't know how we should go about it. We're going to send you a link for a YouTube anime.
One comment, Nora. So I saw you put the comments in this window. So from there, we are broadcasting to Facebook and YouTube. So if you want, you can go on the YouTube or Facebook link with the live event and post it there. Because if you put it here, I'll just see it myself and a few other speakers.
But you mean the questions or the link?
Yeah, the question and the link. So you can just put it on you will see the event, the live event for Facebook and YouTube. You can put it there.
So we have an anime that speaks about these communication power skills that have proven so vital in the remote work era. So if you're interested in it, it's really funny and catchy. So go ahead and watch it. And I think this is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening to us. And of course, we're here. If you have any questions,
please go ahead.
Please go
so
ahead.
I shouldn't share it on the share of it, right?
Yeah,
you can share it, but we can also share it on Facebook.
You can share it on Facebook, the live event. So we will still be here. What about other testers? Did you trainers? Did you talk with them? What's the general feeling here?
Well, I don't want to say that they're depressed.
Oh my God.
But I can't say otherwise. We've talked to a training company that is way bigger than ours. Ours is a startup.
It's a startup, yeah.
But they've been on the market both in Bucharest and in Cluj for, I think, over 10 years. And they major in soft skills trainings, especially for top men. And it's been really hard for them to adapt. I mean, we have an online component in development already since the beginning of the year. So we didn't want to wait for the pandemic. We didn't even know it was coming. And we already, of course, that's why we're interested in events like yours, and this is why we are in this business, because we like this industry. We think it's we have what it needs. But we are developing an online component already for the combination of soft skills and language skills. So for us, it's a bit difficult to adapt, but only because it's not ready yet. But the companies, the training companies that I talked to had a fully face-to-face kind of program. So it's starting from square one.
Especially for training companies, those have been, I mean, the times they've experienced have been really hard, because the companies sort of try to cut costs by re-internalizing actually training. So if they had outsourced it before, now they moved it back. So it was it was complicated. But
I see. Okay. We have also questions from Marian. Do you think teams will evolve the same remotely like in the office? So if you think that the remote team will evolve like the one that were historically in the office.
I think that the disappearance of the office, as The Economist calls it, is going to be a huge problem. I mean, at first, of course, this seems like a real opportunity to spend more time at home and to not bother going to the office. You're safer. You're with your family sometimes, which can also pose a problem. But then I think we're going to be facing in the future a destructuring of the team, of the idea of team and of teamwork.
This is why Nora has a theory that the trainer will actually become a coach, because you will need someone, okay, a trainer, a soft skills trainer, but who is closer to you, closer to your remote team, in a way that can actually help you in a customized way. Okay, so it will be much more focused on individual.
And on rebuilding and on rethinking relationships within remote teams, because that's going to be quite a challenge. If you, I mean, we're used to remote work, to working from home from time to time, but we still went to the office and we met with people and we could at least have lunch together and socialize. But now, since everything happens online, I mean, this is like not the death of the team, but it's almost there. So
a complete transformation.
The trainer is going to have to spend a lot of time trying to reaccommodate team members to
reacquaint them
with the team spirit and everything a team is about.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you. I think we are fine with the presentation. I don't want to, make the other presentation shorter. Thank you, Oana and Nora.
Thank you.
Even if you are on separate screens. Makes sense. And yeah, I'm sure you'll get a lot of trainings these days. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye. And now let's see if we can get Monica. Monica, are you online?
Yes, I am here. Can you hear me?
Okay, yes, just a sec.
And also you have to
okay, yeah.
see me?
Yeah, I can see you and you are fine. So you have 10 minutes, you are online. Let me disappear.
Okay, so what do we have people in the audience? Let's switch to Romanian or English. What you prefer?
We talk all the event in English, so let's continue in English then.
So let's continue in English. Okay. So hello everybody. My name is Monica Kish. I am here. I am actually a freelancer consultant, IT software consultant. After 23 years spent in various roles in the university world and in the IT corporate world, I decided to make a career change and I am working as a freelancer. I am here today to present a paper written by me and Doru Șupeală. You know Doru Șupeală because he was here not only for presenting an article in the TSM magazine 96, but also before. And we have decided to address some questions related to these IT companies and pandemic situation and COVID-19 pandemic. And I would we address 12 questions for the present and the future. And I would like to, let's move to the next slide. Thank you, Ovidiu. First of all, what I will present today, I will present first the purpose of the paper. We have to know why we have written this paper. Then I will go rapidly to the presentation of the 12 questions. And then we have some conclusions. Could you please go to the next slide? Why we have addressed these 12 questions, which is the purpose of the paper. Ovidiu, please, next slide. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Maybe it's a delay. Okay, we have addressed this. First of all, we have our starting point were a lot of discussions that we have it in the market related to the IT companies and the issues that they have it during pandemic situation. And me and Doru, we perform an analysis related to the decision making that the companies have it. Actually, we address some issues because we are considering the problem are not only from now. and we have some, the IT organizations have some issues because they have it also before, but now during this period in which we are moving from the office to work from home, we have a lot of additional issues. So we are considering that before having a decision, before a decision making, you have to perform gathering information, but you have to gather information very focused on some issues that you have it in the company. And we will have this in the next slides. And then you have to perform analysis and then to take the decisions. And this analysis should contain also issues that you have it in the company, have to contain a lot of problems, issues, risk, and additional problems that you have it. So I will move, thank you, Ovidiu, for this slide. I will move rapidly to the presentation of the 12 questions, and we are trying to do this we have selected from the questions, we have selected some keywords, some important keywords, and we have tried to group them into some key terms important for the organizations. For example, we address two questions related to productivity and to language, to learning management system and knowledge management system. And these are related to the resources. Productivity. All of us know that during this period, moving from the office to home, we have a lot of issues, and there is a decrease of the productivity, but we have to carefully analyze all the issues that have impacted the decrease of the productivity. Also, we have many issues related to the knowledge management system, because we have to analyze a lot of things. We have to think if we really have in our organization or in the company a learning management system. Do we really collect the informations during our work related to the knowledge that we are using, developing software? So there are a lot of issues we are addressing there in the paper, and are really important for collecting information, for respond to some questions with honesty and understand if you really have this before and if you need to do something more. Then we have a question related to something very important, the processes. I think the processes in our organizations have created a lot of issues during this pandemic situation. We have to look into our processes to be sure that we have clear processes, that the processes are can be used by the people in the company. The people are knowing the processes of the company. We have clear processes for software development, because otherwise we cannot ensure the quality of the software. And it's really important to respond to these questions and to be sure that the processes that we have are really mapped into our tools. All of us know that during this pandemic situation, we have a lot of issues with the tools that we are using. If we are using proper tools, if we are not using proper tools, and so on. So we have to perform a deep analysis also of the processes. Then we have other question related to the team structure. Are we sure that for each project that we are running in the company, for each software development project, we have a proper team? The member of the team are really prepared for that, for working on the software development on that project? We have also to think about the fact that sometimes we have senior developers involved in not only in one project, and during this pandemic situation, they have to work remote, and they have to work together with various teams and they have to respond to the questions for the juniors in the teams, and they have additional issues with this. So we have to deeply look also if the team structure that we have it in for the project in our organization, it's created in a proper manner. Then we have additional issues for the new projects. Of course, we do not have new projects because it was a situation in which we cannot present new analysis for the customer. We cannot move on with our sales and pre-sales teams. And of course, we do not have new projects, but also here we have to analyze, do we have a proper package to present a new project to the customer online? Do we have a clear package? Do we have a clear way to gather requirements from the customer? Are we able to do this online? Maybe we have to work also on some prototype-based applications. So we have to address here also some questions and respond with honesty and to change something which doesn't work in this period. Ovidiu, could you please go to the next slide? Okay, thank you. Sorry, it was a delay. So the next one, it's related to project coordination. We address also some, not that, it's, sorry Ovidiu, because I was looking on, sorry, the slide before, because I have also to, the slide before. Can you hear me, Ovidiu?
Yes, so is the presentation of the 12 questions?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Yeah, if you are looking on YouTube, it's there's a delay.
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
so
okay.
Try to see it on the camera, the screen behind me.
Okay.
Okay.
And thank you. Sorry.
No problem.
And then we have some questions related to the project coordination. We have, I think, and I have analyzed some projects, and we still have some projects in which we have problems with project management. And during this pandemic situation, we saw this, and I think we have to carefully analyze the problem that we have it, and everything could be solved. Just we have to learn from mistakes and to understand what we can change and what is helpful for also for the organization and also for the people working in software development. Also, of course, we have problems with the project maintenance because a lot of activities were stopped, and the people are not asking help, and there were not incidents. But also we have problems because we are not sure if we have a proper handover from the development team to the maintenance team. So also here we have to address additional questions. Do we have a proper procedure or a proper process or a correct process in the company for handover the projects from software development team to the maintenance team? Can we use the people which are currently involved in the maintenance and now they have no project to maintain? Can we involve them in something creative, working creative, in developing something new for the company? Maybe in automation of some activities for deployment? We have to think also of this. And we have to, now I will touch the two keywords, continuous integration and continuous testing. We have to deeply look into the processes of continuous integration and continuous testing into the company. We have to look if we have to analyze to address questions related to the system that we are using for continuous integration and continuous testing. And here also for quality assurance. We have to be sure that we have tools for deployment and everything works perfectly, even if we are working remote. So here also we have to respond with honesty to these questions and to try to solve the problem that we have it during this period. And then I will because I talk about the project management and the project maintenance and continuous testing and deployment, we have to be sure there were many discussions related to the performance evaluation. And we have to be sure that we have correctly analyzed the project after we are finishing the software development process. And we have to be sure that we are learning from our mistakes and we are using the lessons learned that we have to perform after we are finalizing a project, and we have to use the information that we are gathered from lessons learned also for the performance evaluation. I am not absolutely sure that all the organizations are performing today or they have a clear process for performance evaluation. And we have to think also about this. And then I have to touch two important things. One is related to the organization and the persons, and the developers and the testers when are hearing timesheets, I'm sure they have a reaction. We have to be sure there were many problems during this pandemic situation with the timesheets. We have to, I think, and me and Doro, after our analysis, we think that we have to extract the timesheet from the tools that we are using for software development. And we are thinking that this is possible, and we should not lose the time thinking about the timesheets. We have to focus and to teach our teams to focus on the quality of software development. And an important thing, and very, very important, we have to, it's responsibility. And we have to ask ourselves and to ask the organization, the people in the organization, if we are responsible, each of us, for the work that we are performing. And now I will go to the conclusions. The last slide, please, Ovidiu. This is the last one. The conclusions. Thank you. Here we have to, first of all, try to find our advice is to try to find responses to the questions that me and Doru we have addressed in the paper. Of course, there are particular questions for each organization, of course, because they are different and they are working in different domains, and for sure there are additional and particular questions. Ask yourself also, if you are performing some things for your organization and for your project and also for yourself, then we are thinking that it's very important to learn from mistakes, to recognize the issues, to recognize the mistakes, and to try to resolve the issues and find solutions. And also, we are thinking that you cannot take decisions before a deep analysis that you have to perform in your organization. I think the top management and the middle management, and they should carefully take a look in the processes, and they should have clear decisions, but only after a deep analysis. And we are thinking that the people from the organization should be involved in this. So this is it. Thank you very much. I tried to be in time, and thank you very much for this. We are waiting for your questions, and also me and Doru, our emails are there. We are here to help you. So if you need help for responding to those questions, we are here.
Okay, sounds great. And how do you see? I mean, I know Doru from some other articles. How do you see? And probably his articles, and I saw now yours. How much do you think the company are going down with the pandemic in terms of productivity?
I think it's not probably at the beginning. At the beginning, when all of us were, let's say, it was really a critical situation, because it was also, we don't know exactly what happens. We don't know exactly how to react to this. And probably at the beginning of, let's say in March, it was a decreasing of the productivity. I saw it in some companies, and probably it was, but now I think the people have adapted to this. And I don't see the productivity as the let's say, this is not the key point for the companies. It's not the big issue at this moment, the productivity, at least in my opinion.
Okay, sounds
Because
great, and sound very optimistic. But
yes,
they change the way of working, right? I mean, everyone
exactly.
has thought. We saw before Nora and Oana as a trainer, they have to change their way of working. We saw also before the presentation with the testers, also they are thinking what will happen. So a mobile application. So everyone is doing something different, and somehow probably the good part is that we are not in the easiest points where people are forced to take action and do something maybe innovative.
Exactly. Actually, we have to learn somehow to deal with this situation, and we are adapting. I think all of us are adapting. And of course, at the beginning, it was a decreases of the productivity. But I think the top management should look in the because the productivity, it's not only a problem of the employees. It's a problem of the organization, and they have to deeply analyze, because there are many issues which are impacted the productivity, the decreasing of the productivity. So we are thinking the problem is not so easy, and there are. I think the top management should look with the honesty and should carefully analyze some issues that we have it before the pandemic. And now the pandemic situation created additional ones.
Okay, so sounds great, and it's a nice conclusion. Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. See you again. Bye.
Bye. See you. Bye.
Okay. And now let's continue. Our next presentation will be from my side. So let me try to make some space for the presentation. Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm happy. Let me change my name. Okay. So let me show you a technical article this time. It's something that I work in the latest time for creating a service, and I was thinking that will be nice to go back to the community and share what I found. So the thing is, I'm a backend developer, so I always, when I try to do some fancy UI stuff, it didn't work. And now I find this framework called Nuxt based on Vuex. So probably everyone knows the technology, or at least hear about it. And the nice thing about it is you can write very nice Java code based on components, and somehow you are not necessarily have to be messed with all the sometime websites that don't know what's happening. So let's see how to create a real simple application. Just a second. I think I missed something here. I'm not sure if you can still hear me. At least.
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. Yeah, my OBS software somehow disappeared. Okay, anyway. Thank you. Let's continue then. What's the architecture? So the architecture of this product is pretty simple. We are talking about, we have a page with index view application, and then we have some components that we define, and sync to these components, like we define a button or a text edit, and then when the user clicks on it, it's open up. So it's important to have this entry point that we can integrate in the main page. And then we have a store, which is also nice because we can store all the application locally as in the browser user JavaScript, so we don't have to do a lot of roundups. And actually, if you try offline, the application will still work even if it's offline. Okay, so, and there's a Nuxt config, which is good to set up different stuff for the environment. So let's see a sample, how we want to show all the objects. So we define here scripts with some items in it, you can see it. And then we want to show all of them, so we can just do a for over all of them with this vtext name and vlist item content. And you can see here the output. Next thing is, let's say we want to create a component, how we do it. So we write a template where, let's start with the script. So we create a component and we want to see what data goes in. So in our case, we have some properties, first name and last name. And there's a data property called dialog. There's right now it's on false, but mainly controls when we pop up or close the dialog. And if you see here, last name, first name is what we show in the main page. And then when the user click, you can see we are basically displaying a vCard with all the user input. And there's the creating a state. The state contains a mutation which allow us to change the state. So things like add, delete, modify data. And then we have a group of actions where we actually control the mutations. So it's like different layer state mutation actions. Also we have some getters, for example. Okay, so in our case, if you want to add initially all the data, we'll just do a commit add and add the JSON info, so first name, last name. And if you follow the flow, this commit will call the add mutation, which actually will push the contact to the list. It's pretty handy and works really good for someone used with object programming, for example. And then if you want to integrate this, we can call the action with the dispatch method. And then we have, we can map the getters. And here, for example, you can see the final component that that's added there. So we have a contact component with the parameter first name, last name, and the ID. And then this will display first name, last name. And if you click on it, it will pop up the edit box. So mainly this is it. You can also, ideally will be to just grab it from the Git and take a look at the code. It's pretty simple, but with a lot of impact, and you can create application right away. I'm not sure if I have question. Maybe I can answer them later if you have. So let's go to the next topic, which is IT Days. It's a really love topic for me. And this year will be in 10 and 11 November. The plan was initially to have it with the audience, like 1,000 people, all the stuff there. But will not happen this year, not with audience. At least this is how it looks like. But as a disclaimer, if let's say in the beginning of November, we can have big gatherings, for sure we will meet in person. But okay, I'm not sure it will happen, but just in case it happens, everyone will come there then. So what's the main theme actually for this edition is science fiction, because we want to put together the science, the research, what you are doing different, and what are you learning, and then the fiction, which means all of us needs to dream somehow, and our dreams, what we like to happen in the future, things like this. So this is the main theme. Last year was programming art, trying to combine program with art. Now it's science fiction. So it's not just fiction, it's science and fiction. Okay, so let's see what will happen this year. We'll have an online event. There will be at least 4 stages. We are still working for the streaming platform, but I guess it should be done in time. If not, we'll use something for it outside, but hopefully we'll have it. Then we'll have that will be different from other presentation, because it will happen to the CRIC, Center of Creativity in Numărului, in Cluj-Napoca, and the local speakers, which are the most of the people who are on the stage at IT Days usually, will be invited to come there. Will be just them and really, like 3 people in the room. That's all. And they will present on the real stage, because we want to give everyone the feeling of a conference. So that's why we'll put people on stage, and I hope everything, the audience will get a different feeling. So will be a stage with moderator, ask questions, we can send question online. There will be also virtual stands from the partners and, all the stuff. Okay, we are back. I hope we don't lost all our audience today. Otherwise, we'll be also online. Okay, sorry for this, but my software just crashed. Okay, so as I was saying, we'll try to build, to have everyone on stage, moderator, and get a real feeling of a conference, and everyone else will come online. Online, yes. The registration is already open, and we also have a call for paper. So if you have any idea, just send us an email on contact@itdays.ro. Main speakers, we have very short Mark Simon, who was one of the best speakers we got here in Cluj. He's coming from Denmark, and I'm sure he will have a great presentation on this topic this year. Peter Lorre, one of the best guys on Java. He will come online, of course. And then Thomas Sundenberg, he was also at one of the IT Days a few years ago on testing. Avishai Shafir is from Israel. He was present at the developers conference we organized. He's a really good guy on security and microservices, stuff like this. Adam will come from Switzerland, I think, and Adam Ralph, and he's a really technical guy. So we'll talk, I think, about some .NET topic, so yeah. Basically, those are the main speakers, and and Denigo, he's really passionate about AI, and he also was here at the developer some time ago, so he will be also present online. Those are the first speakers announced from outside. Some other will come, so I'll keep you posted. Okay, so this is it. You can find out more at itdays.ro. And now let's try to move on and try to have the panel. So let me see if I can. Let me go to the panel view. just a second to see. So Cătălin and Denis, you are all both there, right? Let me see if I can make.
We can't hear you, Ovidiu.
Your microphone is muted.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yes. Thank
No,
you.
we
Thank
can't hear you. We see your lips moving.
Yes.
Good.
Okay. So just a second to see. I can. Just a second. I need to. Okay. So before starting, let me reset something here. Okay, great. Okay, Denis, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. And can you hear me?
Yes, that's great. And I have to ask this, but Oana, Nora, and Monica, could you look at the video online, because I need to speak just with Cătălin and Denis as part of the panel, if possible.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we're going to
just go on the YouTube/Days of Mag and you can see there the panel.
Okay.
Because I just need to have only 3 of them here. Okay. So how I can disappear? Let me no.
I think it's all right if you will be there as a host, right? So let's not overcomplicate that.
Yeah, I can just show your name when is needed. Yeah. So okay, I think we are fine. Always we have some issues technically. Okay, so let's start. Let me put also the name. So we are starting our expert panel on Java technology. With me is Cătălin Roman. You can see home screen. He's software architect. We were colleagues along, some years when we worked before. And he's a really good architect and technical guy. And then we have Denis. You saw Denis before during the event, so both of them will be the speakers today. So Denis, I'll ask you if you can, for our audience, if you can summarize a little bit what you are doing right now.
Okay, that's no problems. Mine, actually, in the company where I'm working, I usually pick up, I'm driving the new direction. So my recent tasks were developing like a new pricing engine for new, let's say, asset class for our company. Unfortunately, I cannot disclose more. And my main focus is usually like to achieve the performance to the level we need to solve every certain problems. Sometimes I choose a direction when you build like a system which is highly scalable, something like, Kubernetes, scalability, I don't know, Kafka, all that stuff. Sometimes I really need to go to the very low level. I need to think about how CPU process the data, what probably the best technology we could use. Should we write it C, C++, or whatsoever? But my main responsibility, I'm writing the Java code. I'm a hands-on developer and a hands-on architect at this particular moment of time.
Sounds great. So basically you are the guy with the performance there. More or less.
Yeah, more or less. Not, let's say, so we have also next level of the performance when we develop our own, let's say, hardware, things like FPGAs, etc., to make it even faster. But I'm not that level. I don't do hardware part. I just do software.
Okay. Sounds great. And now let's move to Cătălin. Cătălin, hi. If you can, let me put your name. Give us a short introduction about what you are doing, what projects are you doing. I know you win a contest last year, right? Tell us a few things. I cannot hear you. Hey, I cannot hear you. Okay? Your mic is okay.
Okay,
now.
can you?
Okay, now.
Good.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm working for a company called Frequentis, which is building software and hardware solutions in the field of air traffic management, public safety, and defense. Recently, I have been, let's say, elevated as a lead software architect, where I'm responsible for architecture topics in a small business unit. What I'm doing, or what I'm focusing currently, is working on a product. It's called EAD, or European Aeronautical Information Database, which we build for Eurocontrol. Eurocontrol is the aeronautical authority in Europe. And what EAD does basically is a content management system for aeronautical information. Or in other words, it's like a data hub which aggregates informations like available routes, airspaces, flight levels, and a lot of such objects, which we call aeronautical information. Nowadays I work with multiple teams, helping them on the architecture side, but also from time to time I still get the chance to get my hands dirty, so to say. It's a very interesting domain. You mentioned about the contest, about the award which we won last year. It was a complex project which we built for an airline company. It was Qantas Airways. What we built there, it was actually a joint effort of several companies, Qantas, Frequentis, and Smart for Aviation. Qantas wanted to replace their flight planning solution with a more innovative flight planning system in order to compute optimized routes from the fuel efficiency point of view. And it was really something innovative, which had a lot of impact on the market, on the way of these airlines flies. So that
Okay.
was the main reason for the award.
Sounds great. Thank you, Catalin. Now let's switch to Denis and ask the first question. Denis, how let me see what. Everyone is influenced by Java. I mean, people who grew up who start to be software developer like 15 years ago were influenced by Java. How much did it change your world or the way you approach? I guess the younger ones are more open to other languages. How can you comment about the Java? How you grow up with it, basically?
Of course. So Java has a really long story. So honestly, at some point of time, I was afraid that Java will become some kind of cabal of the new generation of the software development. So everybody knows that the most amount of the lines of code is written in the cabal, and some ancient software enterprise system built on that. But I think recently, like 5 years ago or so, the Java developers themselves, they took a little bit more dynamic approach of evolving language. So if we look on all modern language, they now do more often, they release new features, new language features more and more often. If you remember like how many years passed between Java 1.6 and Java 8, you will be surprised. And also the next step, when the big enterprise moved from Java 8 towards, I don't know, Java 11, 12, 13, 14, it's actually also quite, so you could easily meet Java 8 in production nowadays in the big companies still, even though it's quite, it's even not officially supported. And I think, generally speaking, I think I like how Java evolves, and actually that experience Java received, like evolving its garbage collector and infrastructure, the libraries and stuff. I really believe that it will still be like very heavily used enterprise language for multiple years, for at least 10, I think. But it's hard to predict. So at some point of time, I was really curious about languages like Rust. So I was really in love with this language, and I'm still in love. And I see that, for instance, when those new languages appears, for instance, C++ now taking a lot from Rust. For instance, at some point, the GTK language called Scala appeared, and we could see a big influence of this language to Java world in general. So I'm not sure if I answered on the question clearly, but well,
I think you got a good point. So mainly, even if they cannot innovate all the time, they are taking things from other languages, right?
I think it's kind of general. It's kind of general practice there. So, for instance, I think one of the biggest success in Java history, I mean, from my perspective, so they introduced the specification called Java memory model. So their first time formalized the kind of how exactly language GTK works with your memory in highly concurrent environment. And what C++ did, they introduced memory model as well. So that's a funny part of this language. So of course, C++ is way more mature. It's very old language which can do everything. But it's interesting how each language impacts on each other. Well, it's kind of. This is what I meant. So all languages impact each other, and it's really nice to see that the nice and really kind of cool, I would call it this way, features being inherited by kind of elder languages, which help them to evolve. And I think that's the right direction. So you just take the best features, but please leave the paradigm stable. So don't introduce it, no. something weird in Java or something too strict in C++.
Agree, but I saw also Java. I mean, I heard you can write Java as C++ more or less to try to control everything, and usually I think it's done for performance. Cătălin, can you if you want to respond to this question, how much influence Java and how you see it right now?
So when I started to work as a developer, I started using C++, and I did that for some years, and then it's funny actually. We were a small team working in C++, but sharing an office with a large Java team. Actually, your video you were in.
I was there, yes. I was on the other team, yes.
Yeah, and
so you are on an SDK team with Gabi?
No, we were on this server to server with IMS.
Server to server. Okay. Now I know.
So, I mean, I really enjoyed C++ and working with this language, but I was hearing you guys, your conversations and all these buzzwords from Java, and that made me very curious, and smoothly I transitioned later to Java. Indeed, we see this trend that Java is adopting many constructs and many, let's say, micro-technologies from various languages, which is a good thing. However, Yeah, myself, I'm having now a background in this aviation domain, and in this domain, new technologies are being adopted more carefully. For instance, they let them on the market to grow up for some years, and only then they are being adopted. But of course, it's interesting to follow and study to see what's up there and what actually make us more productive.
Agree and makes sense. Okay, so next question would be, both of you are working on high performance, required, your domain require high performance like aeronautics or high frequency trading. How this impacts your architectures of the systems? This requirement for performance? Or you just take one by one and try to fix it, or you think it from the beginning, okay, we need this architecture to get this output and real-time requirements?
So if I may start,
yes.
I could start from answering yes. The answer is yes. When every time you gather requirements for every certain project, the first thing you always check what is non-functional requirements are. So what is the latency requirements? What is the scalability requirements? What is the high availability requirements? All those things, they really actually open. So if you will choose a kind of approach which designed, I don't know, for instance, you decided to put in Kafka and you want to have persistency, scalability, but you will never get the same level of the latency when you get in comparison with things like, I don't know, real logic Aeron messaging system. But of course, they give different level of the guarantees and the complexity is different. It always, for instance, if you go to the edge with the performance, the complexity of your system grows significantly. And the architectural efforts you need to put up front is also quite significant. It also depends on the scale. If you count milliseconds, microseconds, or even nanoseconds, it's changed your approach quite a lot. That's at least my opinion on that topic.
Okay, agree. And Catalin, how do you see how much it's impacting the technology?
Yes, of course, there are functional requirements and non-functional requirements. And obviously, we also look carefully at non-functional requirements. Indeed, in order to meet them, you need to design performance very early in the architecture. We often employ things like event-driven architectures or non-blocking technologies. Then you can make use of various in-memory data grids, for instance, in order to be able to respond as fast as possible. What I want to add in addition is that not only performance is important in the aviation domain, but also safety, which has sometimes an impact. We often talk about performance, security, but safety is another topic. For instance, the software that commands an elevator, or the software that runs in a car or in a cockpit on an aircraft is completely different than a software that runs, I don't know, for an e-commerce solution.
Agree, makes sense, yes. Okay. Yeah, so everything affects your performance. What about the hardware? Do you have any special, do you need any special hardware for running the software? Or is just
My answer. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Denis. Yes, go on.
Okay, so regarding hardware, it's a very interesting trend. I think the finance industry, I'm talking about the generally available hardware, not specific things you probably use in aircrafts. So it's actually we demand the fastest CPUs, we demand the fastest network card and network switches, but actually we're not sharing back a lot with the hardware, I would say, engineers. And then basically, but honestly, we always, for instance, for us, one of the key features of our systems is actually how fast our network is. And we invest and we research and we use the latest possible networking solution and CPU solution. We upgrade our hardware quite often. It's basically the competition on the market is very tight. And probably if you can get more megahertz or more L1 cache, that's something you can get, because it's honestly, the hardware is cheaper than software engineering. So you try to do on a fast hardware.
And regarding the high frequency trading, can you try to do your specific hardware? I mean, to project your hardware just to do what you need? Very.
Yes, so there are certain solutions. What is the slowest part of the computer? So CPU is insanely fast. It's kind of like with the speed of light. But honestly, for instance, to deliver event from your network card to your CPU, generate interrupt and whatever, depends on what technology you use, it's a lot of time. And in general, there are trends. For instance, you can have hardware. It's called, for instance, FPGA, the technology when you basically design you program the hardware. So basically you upload the firmware to your card and actually executes. And there is a next step when I actually design a piece of hardware and you order it assembled. So it's even faster. So basically a majority of the signals, they don't even reach your CPU. They happens very close to your network controller. Usually you have these micro schemes really soldered next to the network controllers and connected with 1 millimeter and a few more millimeters of the wires to make it as close as possible and to not disturb the CPU from its work.
Wow.
So that's happening. So there's different companies doing different solutions.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, that's different than what we saw every day. Cătălin, what's on your side if you want to comment on this hardware side, processing?
Yeah. In the aviation domain, the pressure is not that. I think I'm right if I say that the pressure is not that high on the performance. So, as far as I saw, we don't really use this very optimized hardware. However, we do use we do have deployments in the cloud, for instance, in AWS or even Azure, and of course there we make use of all these tools like Elastic Load Balancer or auto scaling groups and so on. One interesting news I read recently regarding hardware and deployments is that Department of Defense in US are running Kubernetes clusters in their F-16 jets.
Nice.
It was shocking when I've heard. I don't know details I don't know what applications they run there. I know they use Java and Go language. Obviously, they need redundancy, and this redundancy actually it's important in our domain. Like we use various architectures or setups like active standby and so on. High availability is actually the main driver, and the performance is maybe slightly on the second place.
I see. Yes, and really interesting with Kubernetes. Okay, let's see what we have next. What about microservices? Are you using microservices? General?
Yes and no, I could say. There was quite a hype over the last years, from what I've seen in adoption of microservices. Then I even saw book authors, so guys who wrote books about microservices. I've heard them having second opinions after having to maintain ecosystems with like dozens or hundreds of microservices in production. So I think till at some point microservices can work and can really help. But the more such microservices you get in your deployment, then the complexity increases. So you might get into troubles. Recently, I've heard the term of a jumbo service, which is something like in between, not a monolith, not a microservice, but yeah. With regards to performance, I often, and I think Denis here can confirm that when you have several processes, like even distributed running on several machines, and these processes have to talk with each other, then you need to serialize data on the socket, put it on the wire, send it over. And I guess that adds some latency. And yeah, I guess especially in the trading, yes, I'm curious what they do, what's their opinion about microservices.
Okay, let's find out, Denis.
So honestly, I would fully agree that actually the truth is somewhere in the middle. So there was a trend like you blindly design all pieces of software in split it into microservices. And regarding the serialization, so quite often in general in industry, people think like if you have microservices, you also have a REST-based microservices. You serialize everything to JSON and basically construct the huge strings and basically then build an object back from it. So that's not very efficient of CPU like time, but it also depends on the task. Sometimes I would say that we're somewhere in between. We don't do like a lot microservices. We have for certain tasks we use Kubernetes, we deploy that, but in general the services we use, they usually more or less they do single feature, but we don't split it more than necessary. So honestly, they pay the price you pay for the deployment orchestration and stuff, and also quite significant. And well, as I said, truth somewhere in the middle. So also the monolithic monstrums also not the way to go.
I see. And okay, so if someone wants to tune its system, what will be your advice in Java? Let's say I'm not sure. Are you using an application server or a web server or not? It's just socket to socket or direct communication between.
So talking about what advice I could give people, how they could observe and optimize the problem. So first of all, I recommend engineers to zoom out, because sometimes you make an assumption and this assumption isn't correct. Just recently I've seen this situation literally a day ago. So it's basically always worth to step up. Imagine your application as a big pipe and there is a connection between different pipes and you just need to find a bottleneck. Just think bigger and then zoom in. So as soon as you find out which exact step is slow, then you can try to sort it out. Second advice, never do an assumptions. That's actually the evil. So premature optimizations and assumption in the performance optimization, they always goes wrong. Also, I would recommend nowadays in Java, there is a very nice tooling. Well, you already went to the level when you actually need to zoom in and look how exactly where's the bottleneck in your application exactly. I recommend people to use a Java Flight Recorder, GFR. And this now the modern profiler, which even allow you to run the profiling on a production system with relatively low overhead. So it can gather quite some information about your application runtime, and also you better profile the application when it's struggling. Not like, for instance, if you profile the application during the easy times, you will see something which is completely unrelated to your bottleneck. So for instance, you observe the bottleneck every day at 3 p.m. So you have to profile this 3 p.m., not like 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after. That would be my advice.
I see. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. And Cătălin, do you want to add something on optimization? I don't know, maybe on architecture, from an architecture perspective, some advices?
Yeah, I think Denis mentioned the most important topics. I also agree that premature optimization is the root of all evil. And yes, the thing with making assumptions, first I would recommend to measure it, use a profiler, and analyze what the profiler highlights there. This is what I usually do when we have troubles with performance, and it helps a lot.
Okay. What about Java compared with other languages? What other languages are you looking for right now, for example? Or you will like to look?
We were a bit attracted by Scala, but that didn't really pull off, mainly because of the learning curve, and because of the deadlines we all have. Yeah, it depends. Also, there are many languages out there in the menu. Also, functional programming is interesting sometimes. But as long as we can make use, it's not mainly the language, but it's more like the techniques you are using. So these things like event-driven architectures or non-blocking technologies, for instance, like Akka or Vertex, really can help you a lot. And in these enterprise worlds where we operate, since it's a little bit harder to suddenly introduce a new language, then the fallback solution is to adopt these techniques, stay on the Java, and then still have fun and innovate.
I see. Okay, interesting. Okay, let's then ask Denis, what do you think about Java compared with other languages? Are you looking for other languages to play with?
Honestly, in the production, I'm still mainly using Java, but as I mentioned before, I'm in love with Rust. This was something I kind of randomly was listening in one of the conferences, and I was just listening for the talk, and I just, wow, that's stunning. And I tried it myself. The biggest disadvantage of these languages, so I used to code on Scala, and learning curve to Scala is just, just a relaxing walk. So Rust offers different paradigms, and it took me a while. I almost broke my brain trying to get along with this technology. And if you want to challenge yourself with something interesting and different, I would advise you to give it a try. So it's something, even go through the tutorials and Hello Worlds, you might join the group of people who are in love with that but never use it in production.
I see. Actually, I have a good friend of mine who was, tell me, hey, for IT days, you should bring a good Rust speaker. I didn't find any. I mean, Rust is there. We don't, it's not on all the conferences on IT, and you don't see keynotes on Rust, right? Or stuff like this, at least. So if you, got yourself really good on Rust, let me know. Will be interesting maybe for IT days to have a presentation on Rust.
Yeah, reinterpreted cast in Rust. Something what I want to do at some point as a demo, but let's see.
Okay. Let's keep you in touch on this. Good, and let's try to, one last question. If someone was asking about, hey, what books do you recommend? So what books do you recommend for someone who is interested in performance or, general performance or resources?
It's quite easy for a beginner. There are two great books, Java Performance, for instance. There is the second edition now, or there's another book, Java Performance Tuning. This would be like the first, the ABC, let's say, of Java Performance. And of course, there are other things like, I don't know, designing data-intensive applications, these are books that teaches you like the fundamentals, like how to build. And of course, there are things like X technology in action, right? Arca in action, Vertex in action, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Denis, do you have any suggestions or?
Well, honestly, I think the best. I had a feeling that actually the foundation you for sure need to get from the book, but really interesting challenges and interesting situation they often described in different talks and different conferences. So I have multiple people I'm following. So also there is very nice really nice resource. You can basically, if you want to dig deeper in the low-level Java, you could try the forum in Google Groups called Mechanical Sympathy. This is something you actually could get a lot about the low-level hardcore things, and they will explain. You will know what is a jitter and a lot of other stuff. And and I honestly prefer to watch YouTube video with different speakers and kind of understand the topics from here. But I think it's more like towards intermediate to advanced path. From the beginner, it's better to definitely Java performance books. They could be very, very valuable. And Java engineers, performance engineers sitting next to you also can bring some lights on the darkness.
Okay, sounds great. If you want to add anything to our topic about Java performance now at the end, or we are fine?
I will just repeat myself once again. When you do performance, never assume, never premature optimize, gather your non-functional requirements upfront, and then you can solve any problem. If you do these 3 steps, you're basically safe.
Sounds great. Cătălin, do you want to add something at the end?
Yes, I think data modeling also helps. Right, I mean, after all these applications, they are handling data, smaller or higher volumes of data, and the way you model your data does have an impact on performance.
Sounds great. Okay, thank you. Then let's finish the panel. Thank you, Denis and Cătălin. It was great to have this talk with you. We also publish it transcribe it and publish into the next issue of today's Software Magazine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, and now let's see. Okay, so with this, we are ending our talk today. Okay. Thank you for joining us. Next talk will be next month, probably also on the end. The main topic then will be automotive industry. So stay tuned for more interesting presentations. And I wish you to have a great night, stay safe, and see you next time.